Alright, we're going to make a very simple dialog box today. We're going to run into a character, and when we get within close proximity to them, we're going to spawn a blueprint widget, which is the UI element that Unreal uses to paint graphics to the screen. In this case, dialog. So here's the level we've been working with. Here I have a little toad character with a collision box you can see around it. All this functions very similar to all the other stuff that we've been doing with moving platforms and all those things. The code isn't really that different. We've also already used widgets to do the pickups for the coins in the last lesson. So this is what's going to happen, and then we'll break it down and do it from scratch. So I come up to this toad, I bump into him, this graphic gets painted to the screen. Now I made this graphic in Photoshop. Let me show you. So this was just a very simple, sort of like crude dialog box that I made with a few different layers. Now obviously, the more complicated you want things to be, if you want player portraits or character portraits, NPC portraits, whatever, on there, you can design these however you want. So I have imported a few graphics here. I imported this toad portrait graphic. I imported this Mario dialog box, background 1, which looks like this. It has this Mario portrait dialog box. This is the portrait for the toad. And I imported those two things into Unreal. You can see that they are here and here. Remember when importing graphics that you want to have that hard-edged 8-bit look to them? Remember when you click on them, go into the texture settings, and on the right side, if you go into level of detail, texture group, there's a drop-down. Set this to 2D pixels unfiltered, and it's going to make things look a lot more crisp and sharp. Obviously, if that's not the aesthetic that you're going for, then don't do that. Alright, so let's start from scratch here. I'm going to go to Add New, User Interface, Widget Blueprint. And let's call this I don't know, Toad Dialog Box Widget. Sure, sounds good. So this is the same widget that we created for the pickups. It's going to look pretty much exactly the same when we click on it too. Double click it, go into it, and this is where we can design what we want our dialog box to look like. So over on the left side you have a canvas panel, and this is the hierarchy of all your different graphics here. Obviously things can get very complex. What we're doing here is incredibly simple. So I want you to, in the palette up here, I want you to grab an image, drag it down to the canvas panel, and then click that image. You can right click on it and rename it. Let's call it background. And then over on the right side, in the appearance section, there's this big box that says none right now. We want to find that graphic for the dialog box, and I'm using the Mario dialog background 01 texture. Click that. There's this little toggle box up top here that says size to content. Go ahead and click that. That will make the image widget take the same size and shape of the actual graphic that you've applied to it. If you want, you can grab onto it, move it around your screen. If you want to be more precise, you can use the position settings over here. position it where you want on your screen. I guess I'll just do above the character. Obviously do whatever's appropriate for you. All right, I'm going to drag in another image, and I'm going to call this portrait. This is going to be my NPC character portrait. And again, same thing, over on the right side, image. I'm looking for that Mario Dialog Toad Portrait 01. Click on that size to content again. Drag it in. Cool, cool. Next thing, we're going to add some text to, have the NPC's name and then have what the NPC says. So let's drag in some text. And I'll just call this Toad here. And over on the right side, you have things like font sizes and that sort of stuff. I'm just going to scale this up. Obviously the position or the sizing of your stuff is going to be different depending on the aesthetic that you're going for. I'm going to click on color and opacity and change this to black. Position it here, maybe size it up a little bit more, 70, let's try that. Oops. Just like in Photoshop or any sort of graphics program, you can always lock the layers in the hierarchy if you don't want to drag them around by accident. That looks good for me. All right, I'm going to add another text. I don't know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say help Mario. Size this up. Change the font color to black. Move this around. Help Mario. I'm going to change the different fonts in the font family. By default, you should only have very few fonts available. Help Mario. Maybe I'll drag another text in. Or actually, you know what? Instead of doing that, I'll right-click on the Help Mario one and duplicate it so it keeps my font color and the size and all that stuff. Bowser has kidnapped the princess. Again, can you believe it? Yeah, I'll scale this font down a little bit. Always losing that princess. All right, maybe I'll duplicate the Help Mario one again. And I'll just put, like, please help. Please help. And I'll size that up a little bit. Now, we're not going to go over anything complicated like making the text animated or any of that sort of stuff at this point. Just want to do very simple pop-up windows. Cool. Maybe I'll click on my background and go into the opacity, color and opacity channel. I'll just lower this down. Don't want to lower it down too much or my text isn't going to be legible, but just to let a little bit of the background world show through. And you could do this by having your actual graphics that you import have opacity as well. All right, cool. That's a start. So, next thing that we want to do is I'm going to delete this little guy. And I'm going to create a new blueprint class, actor. What's this at? New blueprint. Call this toad underscore NPC toad01 underscore NPC underscore blue BP for blueprint. I'm going to double click into this blueprint. So we made our graphic painted the screen, but we don't have anything that is talking. So this is where we're going to create that NPC Toad to have Mario converse with. All right, so in the Toad1 NPC underscore blueprint, I'm going to click on the Add Component button and type in sprite, go to Paper Sprite. You're going to pick on the right side, your sprite is going to be Toad, or whatever yours is. You know, this could be a flipbook too. If you didn't want to import Paper Sprite, you could import a flipbook. You know what? Why don't we give it a shot, actually? I'm going to delete the Paper Sprite and green button, add component. I'm going to type in flipbook. I think I have one already. Didn't show you how to import this, but I'll put the graphics in the zip file so you can make the flipbook. To flipbook, it just has 2 frames. It's just his head bobbing a little bit. Very simple. I didn't have any other graphics to use, but that's fine. All right, cool. So he's a little bit more lifelike now. Let's add a component. Let's type in box. Let's add a box collision. This is the collision box that Mario is going to run into. That is going to trigger the dialog box to pop up. So, you know, make it the height of the toad. Maybe you want it to be a little bit wider than the toad is, so you don't have to be right up in his face. That's up to you. That's good, that's good, that's good. Cool. All right, let's click on the Event Graph tab in the blueprint. And with the box clicked, the box collision clicked in your components hierarchy, over on the right side at the very bottom, if you scroll all the way down on the details panel, you'll see a bunch of green pluses. And these are event buttons that we can put. I want to click an event button for on component begin overlap, right here, and on component end overlap. So something's going to happen when this box gets overlapped, and something's going to happen when it gets unoverlapped, or when that overlapping ends, right? So we can drag out from the overlap here, and this is where we're going to create that widget, or summon that widget that we created for the dialog box. So the node here is called create widget. And in the drop down here, you want to click select class, and you're going to search for that widget that you made. I think mine is toad dialog box underscore widget. Yes. Let's drag off of here, and we want to put add to player screen, add to player screen, connect up the blue to the blue. Add to player screen's the node, as that's actually going to put this graphic on the player screen. Let's compile, see if there's any errors. All right, let's test this out. Oh, duh. We need to actually put the graphic on. We need to put the toad in the world. So let's go back to the map and drag. Find the toad BP. Where's he at? Here he is. Let's drag him into the world. Probably going to want to scale him. So put him back in 0y. Actually, maybe negative 0.1. Negative 0.1, just so he's behind the platform. I'm going to place him next to Mario so I can size him. Yeah, 0.5 seems too big. 0.4 seems too big. 0.35. Toad's kind of a tiny dude. Alright, that looks a good size. I'm going to drag him into my world. Place him around. And probably rotate him as well. Rotate him around 180 degrees. Playing Link's Awakening right now on Switch, and my 2-year-old daughter is very obsessed with hitting things with swords and falling down the holes. Alright, so we've placed that into the level now. Now let's click play. Toad should be there. Yes, hello. Oh, hey, check that out. So it stays there. It doesn't do anything when we walk away from them. That's something we can do next. Why is this not blocking? If I go back to the Toad NPC and make this box a little bit bigger, a little bit fatter, I wonder if that will block Mario from going through. It's not a big deal, but I guess not. Oh well. Well, that's not important for now. Actually, maybe I'll just change that to block all and see what happens. Ah, yeah, there we go. But it doesn't generate overlap events. Just bear with me for a moment. Yeah, that's not that important. We could figure it out, but it's not within the scope of this video. Alright, so we have it being painted to our screen. Why don't we do something else? Why don't we add 2D sound here. 2D sound. Play 2D sound. Just so we get a little bit of sound that happens when the menu pops up, or when the dialog box pops up. You could pick whatever sound you want. Let's try it out. Cool. It just makes it feel a little bit more live. I don't know why the paper flipbook's not animating though. That's a good question. Not animating. Not entirely sure why. It kind of is animating, but... Oh, it is. It's just really minimal. Yeah, he's animating. He's just a really crappy animation. My bad. So it works. It's just use better flipbook sprites. Alright, let's go back to... I think what happened was when I scaled him down, all that movement got compressed. Alright, let's go back to the event graph. So when we walk away from this Toad, I want that dialog box to disappear. So we are going to remove from parent. Remove from parent. Let's try that out. Let's play it. Oh, cool. Works. So that's all right. It's a little bit jarring how it just kind of pops in and pops out. We could add animation to smooth that out so it kind of fades in and fades out. It's something very basic, but I can show you that. All right, if we go into the Toad dialog box again, this graphic right here, and I click on Canvas panel, down in the bottom left we have animations, and I'm going to call this Toad dialog. Why don't you lay down and go to sleep? All right, close the door. Toad dialog box. Wait, you know what? I'll just call this fade in. Toad dialog fade in. And what I'm going to do is click on that, click the green track button on this timeline here. And Canvas panel. Select Canvas panel here. Click on plus track. And what is this? Render opacity, I think? Yeah, render opacity. So I want this to fade in over the course of half a second. This is just setting keyframes. Set keyframes for it to fade in and for it to fade out. Just like any sort of keyframe program. There we go, scrub the timeline. You can see it's fading in. Now I need to do another one. Just call this the same thing, Toad dialog fade out. Add a track for the canvas panel, plus render opacity. And this is a fade out, so the last keyframe is 0 for the render opacity. Cool. Compile and save. All right, let's give this a shot. So I want to go back to, let me take a look. We want to go back to the Toad NPC window, and we're going to break this here and say play animation. No, not that play animation. Play animation in the user widget, or user interface section is what we want. All right, give myself a little bit more room. Connect this up. All right, if we drag out from the return value on the Create Toad dialog box widget, and we type Toad, what did we call it? Toad fade in, I think. Yeah, Toad dialog fade in. We want that. Get Toad dialog fade in. And then connect that into the in animation on play animation. All right, let's see if this works. Oh no, errors. Oh, the target. Target. Let's try that. Yeah, make the target the widget as well. All right. Cool, a little fade. See that? Fades in, but it doesn't fade out yet. We have to do the same thing for the removing of it. So I can copy, paste, Control C, Control V to get this play animation. I'm going to break this, plug this into the remove parent. Now, these things happen very quickly. As soon as we end overlapping the collision box, it's going to play the animation and it's going to remove it from the parent. So play animation and remove it from the parent, it's going to remove the widget from the screen before we even get to see the fading out animation. So what we need to do is add a delay right here for the duration of our graphic. And in this case, our fade is 0.5 seconds. Otherwise, we won't even see it at all. And drag out from the return value of the widget again. It was called fade out, but we're looking for the Toad fade out. So Toad fade out. The reason these things are here is because we created them in the widget where we created the dialog boxes. These things aren't built into Unreal. They're only named this and they're only available to us here is because we made them. So get Toad dialog box fade out. Cool. Plug this into an animation. Connect this to the target. All right. Let me pause right here so you can see. All right, let's give it a shot. Cool. And I'm still collecting coins and going to see him. This is a very basic way to do dialog boxes windows. It's not super sexy, and there's not like a lot of animation going on or any of that sort of stuff. You could have those things, of course. If you have longer dialog box windows, you have multiple lines of text that you want to cycle through. Haven't even gotten to that, but I just wanted to give you a basic way to get graphics on the screen. So I hope that's helpful. I think that's about it. Let me check. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Hope that was useful. Peace.